Hey there YouTube, what's going on? Today we're going to be doing the power steering line on this 2006 Acura RSX. The process should be the same, if not very similar for all model RSXs as well as the Type S or base model. If you look right here on this connection, we have a little nick. Might be a little bit hard to see from the angle, but you can obviously see a small bulge that is covered and saturated with liquid power steering fluid. And that all right there, power steering fluid. As soon as I parked it, popped the hood, you could see a little bit of it dripping. And now that it's starting to unwind, I guess you could say, there's not as much seeping out. Starting off the process, before we dive right into it, I got this part, power steering line, from rockauto.com. Shipping took about 4 days, and online it was the cheapest one that I could find. So let's go ahead and open this up. I bought stuff from them before, never for this car, but for other cars I have, and I've always had good experience with them. So here's my receipt from them, little business card, actually a magnet for the fridge, and here is the actual package itself. Okay, all right, so this is the connection that goes to the actual steering rack. Then this is the connection that goes to the power steering pump. Just like with any new part, you're gonna wanna kind of look at them visually first, just to see that it is the exact same part. As you can see, these two pieces are identical, if not very similar for up top. And the reach is just about the same. The top head of it looks pretty much the same, even has the pre-drilled hole right on the top right there for the 10mm bolt. It's gonna have to sit right on top for bracket on one of the throttle cables. So, one thing that I noticed right off the top, I believe there's an O-ring that goes right here. We're gonna check this one out, and if that one is not good to transfer over, then I'll see if I have one here at the shop, or I might have to run to the parts store and pick one up. But from the looks of it, it's starting to look like should be a pretty simple process. Okay, so we come over to this side right here. You can see the steering rack on this side, on the driver's side of the engine compartment. The one that has the sensor plugged into it, that right there is the one that we'll be replacing. So you're gonna go ahead and unplug the sensor. Just comes right off with a little clip. We're gonna take that 10mm bolt off of the bracket that's holding this line in place. Then if you look, that line goes to right over there. Let's see if I can zoom in on it for you. You can see it's the first one closest to the front of the car, which is what we're gonna be loosening. It's best to use a flare nut wrench on these since you can't get a socket and it's possible that they strip. And if you don't have a flare nut wrench, a regular wrench, just be very careful with it. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our wrench and loosen that up first. It should be a 14mm nut, or a 9/16 is the exact same thing. I do have a flare nut wrench for that specific size, 14. So let me just show you. If you do have a flare nut wrench, what it is, basically it's almost as if it were completely closed, has a small slit in it to go over a line. They use these on brake lines, fuel lines, and power steering lines. Focus. So you put it over the line using that little slit, you drop it down, and there you go. It gets all but one side of the nut. So it's a lot less chance of stripping the actual nut on whatever connection you're working on. So, just gonna go right in there. Got it in place now. Just gotta break it loose. Once you break it loose, then if you want to use an open end wrench, you can, since the tension's already been broken loose. Then sometimes you can even get it off by hand. So we're just gonna go ahead and finish unthreading this right here, loosen that 10mm bolt, and see if there's anything else holding it down. And that's loose right there. We're gonna just follow that line and see if there's anything else holding it on the other side. This just unclips right there. And there's another bracket holding it in over the valve cover. that's free from the top right here. So far what's holding it is that connection right there. And I think that there's one more bracket holding it onto the firewall right here. So I'm gonna find out exactly in just a sec. So I found the other bracket. This is the hose or the line, goes over to the firewall. I took this wiring loom off with the clips. I'm gonna zoom in exactly where it is. Let's see if I can point at it for you. Right there, where my shadow's casting, you can see kind of a little bracket over a black looking line. If I get a better view, it's a metal bracket. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a 10mm nut or bolt right there as well. Kind of hard to access it, the view, but it is the same power steering line, and judging off of the brand new one, here's the one bracket by the rack that we already took off. Here's the bracket goes right there for the one on the valve cover, the little one that we also took off right there. And there's one more spot, which is exactly where it becomes from this material to the actual metal. Okay, I think that I found where it bolts onto that bracket. This bolt, let me focus, right there. Not that one with the line, but this one right here, that's directly on the rack. It looks like it curves upwards, and when I got a better view of what we're taking loose right there, the bracket looks, let me see if I can show you. The bracket looks like it curves down right. There's that bracket, if I can ever focus. And there's not a bolt directly right off of it, but it comes off, curves downwards, and I'm gonna guess that it's that one right there. So, judging by the looks of it, I'm going to not use that little stubby extension that I said. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the socket and test it out. Okay, we've got the bolt out right there, as you can see. Now let's wiggle the line, and that was 100% that power steering bracket. So we are coming over here to finish taking out the flare nut. And as soon as that's taken off all the way, make sure you have something underneath so it doesn't get the floor all dirty. As soon as that's taken off all the way, we'll work on the line that goes right into the pump. Got the other side loose, the one we were just at. Now we're coming over here. I'm gonna break these loose. Keep in mind there is a ground strap right there that goes to your radiator core support. You're gonna wanna make sure to put that back on. Once this is finished, take off this little bracket as well. There's 3 bolts you'll be taking off of this side. One for the little bracket, one front that also holds the ground strap, and one right here in the back. Ground strap off to the side. This should just come right up. And yes, there's a little O-ring right there, just like we thought there would be. And since the other one does not have it, as soon as we take this line, we'll check to see how that one is. Okay, well, I want to show you guys something right now. So after playing with it a little bit, trying to get the line out, I realized something that if you, here, let me get a better lighting on it. The power steering line is intertwined essentially between the heater core lines. So right over here, we have the loose piece. Down there, you can see 2 little hose bracket, or 2 little hose clamps around the control for the heater core. This is stuck behind it and around it. Coming over on this side, you can see this goes right through it. Now, I'm going to try to wiggle it out and pull it through, although I'm not sure if I'll be able to. And worst case scenario, I'll just end up taking one of those hose clamps off. So one simple hose clamp, and I got this to free itself. Now we just gotta get this sensor and bracket and everything through all the other hoses. Pretty simple. Gotta play with it a little bit. It's a little hard with one hand, so let me set the camera down real quick. Okay, got it all free. And this just pulls right out. Old one, new one. We're gonna compare the O-ring right here. Oh, let me show you exactly where it was broken. Right there, you can see the cut. Apparently it's a known issue with these RSXs, so it's good to know that we can change it easily. This O-ring right here looks like it's a little bit beat up. I'm gonna check with mine to see if I have something similar, if not the exact same. And if I do, I'll put it right on. The sensor off of the old one just unbolts. I think it's a 19 millimeter. I couldn't find my 19 wrench, so I used this open end or adjustable wrench. And it also has an O-ring. This one seems to be in pretty good condition, so I'm gonna leave that alone and just thread this right into the new one. And it broke free pretty easy from the old line, so I'm doing it by hand right here, then a little bit more with the wrench, but nothing crazy. It doesn't need 100 foot-pounds of torque. It just needs to be nice and snug. You put it down and all tight. Now that the sensor is on, we're gonna grab these brackets, and they're 2-piece like that, or 1-piece like you can see. These just pry apart. You take these off, and you put them to the corresponding location right there, and the other one to the front, or the other one to the side right here. So let's just transfer that over right now. We're gonna go ahead, now that we have all the clamps back on, we're just gonna go ahead and feed it through the same way that, the same way that you took it out. We're gonna put it back in. I'm not gonna record that portion since it's pretty self-explanatory and much, much easier if I do it with both hands. All right, we went ahead and put everything in reverse of how we took everything off. Got the ground strap back on, little bracket right there, both bolts. I had a new O-ring just from a universal O-ring kit, although Honda does sell the original ones. You can just go pick it up at your local dealership. Put this bracket back on, this one right here. Same bolt for the lower bracket back there. Remember this bracket as well. Put the connector back in, thread it in nice and snug. A little rag from when it was when we took it apart. And that should pretty much be it. Next thing to do would be refill our power steering reservoir. And while it's in the air, I like to kind of bleed the power steering. So I'm gonna fill that up to the max on the reservoir, and then while it's in the air, turn on the car and steer left to right, and see if any air bubbles come out. A little bit of smoke burning up from when the line was off, and the coolant, how it kind of fell over the exhaust. While it's still cool, taking the radiator cap off. Should have done that before we started the car, but we just want to make sure that if there's any air in the system for the coolant, it kind of burps out. Lowered a little bit on the level, so we just gotta top that off now. Doesn't look like we have any leak off of the power steering pump where the O-ring is. So as long as we top this off and turn the steering wheel a bit, we should be good. Before we did this, even in the air, the power steering was as hard as a rock. Sometimes it would free up when turning, other times it would be super hard, like if there was no power steering at all. So it's nice to see that Rock Auto's product, the pump line replacement, did as it should. Okay guys, I'm gonna end this video right now. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. If this video did help you, it helps me a lot if you like the video. And make sure to stay tuned if you have any other wants to learn about Hondas or Acuras. But if you have any questions, let's leave them down below. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day.